Hey, I'm Matthew Jude from This Game Is Broken, and whether you're new to the hobby or a seasoned gamer, it seems there's always another game on the shelf waiting to be discovered. In this episode, we're going to cover 10 games that caught our eye over the past month, both new and old, that we wanted to make sure didn't go overlooked. Welcome to the 10 games we couldn't overlook this month, and now we cut to me with more information. Thank you, Matthew. This episode is sponsored in part by the upcoming Freedom 5, a Sentinel Comics board game from Arcane Wonders and Greater Than Games. Freedom 5 is a cooperative strategy game in which 1 to 5 heroes race to protect their city from the villainous Baron Blade and his criminal cohorts. Each player must master their character's unique abilities to manage multiple crises throughout the city. Assemble a team to face standalone challenges, or mix it up and adventure through a series of campaign comics in which you will gain rewards and new threats each session. There's no time to lose. Megalopolis is under attack, so immerse yourself in the world of Sentinel Comics and test your wits against a dastardly smart AI in the newest evolution of the Defenders of the Realm series by Richard Launius, launching on Kickstarter October 20th. Follow the link in this video's description and stay alert, heroes! First up on this month's list is a game that I'm very excited about, the route building tile placement game In the Hall of the Mountain King from Burnt Island Games. This game invites players to rebuild their abandoned kingdom located under an entire mountain using muscle and magic, during which players will unearth riches, dig out collapsed tunnels and carve out great halls as they raise toppled statues of their ancestors back to the places of honour at the heart of the Hall of the Mountain King. Dun 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 dun. It's like fantasy multiplayer tabletop Dig Dug if the players were trolls hunting for gold and you had a fundamental misunderstanding of the concept of the game Dig Dug, I guess. Gameplay is driven by a cascading production system requiring timing and tactics as competitors work to restore their home to its former glory and gaining honour with hopes of winning the crown at the end. So it's kind of more like the game Fall Guys in that regard. If you have a fundamental misunderstanding of the core concepts of the game, Fall Guys. Now, the previous game begs the question, why dig through a mountain of rock and dirt for riches when you could just find them randomly scattered throughout the jungle? It's a question answered by the next game on this month's list, The Quest for El Dorado, The Golden Temples, by the Doctor of Fun, Reiner Knizia. The Quest for El Dorado, The Golden Temples, is a card drafting, racing, exploration game from Ravensburger, which can be played as a standalone game or combined with 2017's The Quest for El Dorado. And doing so is easy. No adhesive or unwieldy paste required, just your imagination and a copy of both games, and then you kind of just smush them together. But players have now reached the legendary City of Gold and have started to explore it. What will they find there? My guess, a clay-fired Michelangelo Cutley statue and snakes. Yes, I could have just said gold, but I like to make my life as challenging as possible, which is why instead of milk in my tea, I've opted instead for broken glass. The next game that we feel has gone overlooked for far too long is 2012's Winter Tales, a storytelling board game in which players tell the tale of the conflict between the characters of fairy tales, who represent all that is good and hopeful, and the soldiers of winter, the incarnation of evil and the fierce cold of winter. In the game, players will ally themselves with one of the warring factions, controlling characters and fighting for the comeback of spring or the suffocation of all hope, bringing on an endless winter. Winter Tales is designed to be an ever-changing game, as each time it's played, a completely different story will unfurl, creating a shared plot. So wind your way through the alleys of Wintertown as its citizens desperately cling to love and light and hope under a blanket of snow and the never-ending chill of a winter night. Or I suppose play as the other side and do all of that, but in reverse. Also, you know, I'll say it, maybe don't move to a town called Wintertown. It sounds awful, like a endless vast white nothingness where the sun never rises or never sets, or whichever way that works. You never get any work done. No wonder the tyrants are on the loose. Wintertown. Winning the next game on our list comes at a cost, but that's okay because I love a challenge. That's why instead of socks I fill my shoes with broken glass. It's like I'm Die Hard all the time, but instead of a cunning band of vaguely German thieves, I fight my own inner demons and unnecessary blood loss. And just as heroic as John McClane is the company that you will represent in The Cost, a challenging economic board game that places players in the role of a company whose interest is in the asbestos industry around the world. Players compete to make their fortune by providing raw asbestos, factories to refine that asbestos, and railroads and ports to transfer their goods around the world, which, again, is asbestos. And the game is full of choices to make. For example, when players mine or refine asbestos, they've got to choose between either maximising revenue for short-term gains or sacrifice their precious profits in order to minimise the deaths of the consumers who purchase their products. What to do? Choices, choices, choices. So in this action drafting game, it's the players who can best balance their mortality rate of their customer base in order to accumulate the most money who wins. But at what cost? Oh, that's why the game's called The Cost. As best as I can tell. Let's turn now from games about heat-resistant fibrosilicate minerals to the all-natural farm-drawing city-building game Sunflower Valley from Hobby World. In Sunflower Valley, players draw their own picturesque landscape based on their tactile use of a shared pool of dice. Spreading villages throughout the valley and connecting them with railways earns players pounds of precious points. What's more, extra rewards can be earned for cheering up the local villagers by cleverly planting sunflowers around the mountains. But remember that there are other players out there competing for the most valuable dice too. So, grab a pen and start drawing your own valley to populate with flowers, livestock, railways, and I assume kind, friendly townfolk named Ulysses who can gladly point you in the right direction towards the annual Pumpkin Festival, which this year is taking place in Miseryville, which sounds lovely. What's also lovely is that the second half of this video is sponsored by Mythic Games, so over to me again in the future. That's right, Matthew. Mythic Games is bringing us a tabletop adaptation of Red Hook's acclaimed video game Darkest Dungeon, in which players strive to cleanse a manor and its surroundings of all manner of evil hordes and undead, foul beasts and eldritch abominations. Darkest Dungeon is a fully cooperative dungeon crawl game in which players take on the role of adventurers, and as brave and as determined as they are still only human and are prone to the madness that the twisted dungeons will inflict upon them. In order to retain their sanity, players must triumph over encounters, resist rampant madness and emerge victorious before throwing themselves into another battle towards the ultimate goal of dispatching the source of evil that plagues the land and its inhabitants. Darkest Dungeon Kickstarter launches on October 20th. Follow the links in this video's description for details and to back it. To travel above the sky and further than the horizon is the motto of the team of celestial construction managers in our next game, Welkin by Ankama. In the game, players craft and sell fantastic floating facilities by collecting various resources and then assembling them to complete their construction contracts for islands in the sky, no less. Each turn, players can either select a new island contract to create, produce one of the 5 different types of resources, or apply those resources to their contracts in order to complete them. Players have a limited space available in order to store their contracts and resources, so they'll have to optimise their production line in an attempt to complete each of their objectives as efficiently as possible. And yeah, efficiency is great, but I like a challenge, which is why my islands in the sky are covered in broken glass. If you're up for an adventure, then Adventure Inc. might have you covered with some type of adventurous ink, but also with the next game on this month's list, Plunderers, in which players are privateers in a steampunk-inspired alternate history, sailing the seas of the New Caribbean for wealth, fame, and plunder. Plunderers is a game of area control, resource management, hand building, dice manipulation, and negotiation. Each round, players must strategically assemble a unique crew to carry out their orders, navigate and explore islands, manipulate resources and politics, parlay with other privateers, complete personal patron requests, and defend and conquer ports to acquire resources, influence, rewards, and loyalists. Did I mess that up a couple times before this take? Yes. But with all of that to manage, you will still have time to visit the Miseryville Pumpkin Festival. Use your time wisely though, because I hear it promises to be a great day out for all involved. Take note, Wintertown. Miseryville know what's going on. Oh, and the privateer with the most points at the end of the game will be declared the first governor of the New Caribbean, by the royal family, no less. Alright, we're deep into this countdown now with our next game, In Too Deep, an upcoming game from Burnt Island Games. In Too Deep is designed to thrust one of 4 players into a unique narrative in the year 2087, a time in which central governments have fallen and a sinister syndicate is recruiting criminal elements. And as a player, you are part of a secret agency dedicated to stopping the syndicate at all costs. Each turn, players can hook into a new criminal and manipulate their activities throughout the city, accessing powerful skills and increased stamina as they grow familiar with their surrogate mind. Gross. Meanwhile, their physical body is in a secret lab, obviously far from any actual action. But even so, they're by no means safe, and entering the mind of criminals takes its toll on the agent's morality. Plus, the criminal's iPod only has Sum 41 songs on to listen to. Gross. However, Does This Look Infected continues to be a fantastic album. Orchestrate crimes, use the information you glean to your advantage, wrestle with dangerously corrupted dilemmas and try to hold yourself together. It will take everything you've got to avoid going in too deep. Me, personally, I don't mind going in too deep. Put me in a criminal's mind. Fill that mind with broken glass. Some games engage us, with an intriguing theme. Other games capture our attention with striking artwork or unique gameplay mechanisms. And other games are simply titled Cosmic Frog. Such is the case with the next game on this month's list. Cosmic Frog, a dice-driven fantasy miniatures game from Devious Weasel Games. Okay, Cosmic Frog is a game of collection, combat and theft. On a planetary scale, each player controls a 2-mile-tall, immortal, invulnerable frog-like creature that exists solely to gather terrain from the shards of Aether, the fragments of a long-since shattered world. The first ones seek to use the lands from the shards to reconstruct the world of Aether, and your frogs are the terrain harvesters, which was, oddly enough, the exact same theme as my game, Total Warfare, which I guess I'll just change to Trading in the Mediterranean or something, I don't know, something with zombie Vikings. Total Warfare. I was happy with that. Throughout the game, players are free to either harvest resources at their own pace, or they may attack other frogs in an attempt to steal lands directly from their gullets. But since all cosmic frogs are immortal and invulnerable, no atmospheric amphibian is ever wounded or killed, just irritated and inconvenienced. The game ends when the shard is stripped of all its harvestable lands, or when the splinter shatters it and the player with the most highly valued vault is the winner. Simple enough. And topping this month's list is Frostpunk, the board game, currently scheduled for release next year from Glass Cannon Unplugged. In Frostpunk, the board game, up to 4 players will lead a small colony of survivors in a post-apocalyptic world that was hit by a severe ice age, which I think is what happened to Wintertown, now that I think about it. But these survivors aren't just mere speechless meeples on the board. Instead, they will issue demands and react accordingly to the current mood, so every decision and action that the players take will bear consequences. Speechless Meeples would make a great name for a band. Actually, Speechless Meeples is my new public speaking workshop for shy game designers. Is the name of my poorly researched board game podcast. My one-man improv show. The name of my Cirque du Soleil mime ensemble. Frostpunk, the board game, is based on the best-selling video game by 11-Bit Studios, the creators of This War of Mine. The original digital edition of Frostpunk is a strategy survival city builder, as well as BAFTA nominated, which originally launched in 2018. Will you bring peace to the people of Frostpunk? See Wintertown Frostpunk. It's a perfectly viable city name that invokes an idea of coldness. But that's not important. What is important is that this is our list of games we wanted to make sure did not go overlooked this month. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I've been Matthew Jude. Take care.